Yeah, hi folks. Yes, the existing treaty principles are deliberately designed meaningless gobbledygook. And that is explained in the latter part of this video in an interview between Rodney Hyde and Elizabeth Rata in respect to an article I recently covered about the treaty having principles when it doesn't. Now, links to that article and podcast can be found on page 28 of the Psychology of Takeover booklet and in the links below. Anyway, today I'll start off with intimidation and threats.
The Māori King's call for unity has been answered today. Enormous crowds converging on Ngārua Wahia in a national hui. Top of the agenda was ACT's proposal to redefine the principles of the treaty. A former Prime Minister even weighing in, saying it should be left alone. Our Māori Affairs correspondent Te Anuahuri Hanganui is there.
Pouring in from every corner of the land. Every seat, every space filled by a crowd of more than 10,000.
A mob of 10,000. Now that is intimidation.
The message from the masses was clear. The Treaty of Waitangi is under threat.
Well, smashed and dead, they think that they can, take the treaty apart. Nobody's ever been able to do it before, and these bastards won't be able to do it now.
And that's a threat. And both intimidating and threatening people is a Maori activist strategy to take over New Zealand. And you can see that by reading number 3 on page 18 of the Psychology of Takeover booklet.
Even a former Prime Minister wants the Treaty Principles Bill gone.
This is ground I would not wish to move through, and that's because I believe the treaty stands for itself.
But the principles were never in the treaty. They were made up in the 1980s by Geoffrey Palmer and activists in a new treaty.
On the eve of the Māori King's national hui, a bombshell document leaked to One News has exposed major flaws in the government's controversial Treaty Principles Bill. The Ministry of Justice has warned the list of principles proposed by the coalition bears little resemblance to what the treaty actually says. The official paper also raises concerns about the lack of consultation with Māori. Our Māori Affairs correspondent Te Anuahuri Hanganui obtained the full document and has this exclusive report.
Iwi from across the country already pouring in. To marae in and around Ngārua Wahia for tomorrow's national gathering at Tūranga Waiwai. But now something new's top of the agenda, a bombshell draft document on the government's Treaty Principles Bill exposing major compliance issues.
It's an attack on the rights that were promised to us under Te Tiriti.
There's no question about this. This was an attempt to abolish the Treaty of Waitangi.
The legal document from the Ministry of Justice, leaked to One News, warns the government's proposed principles are at odds with both the spirit and text of the treaty. One example is the Coalition's version of Article 2, which says the government will honour all New Zealanders in the chieftainship of their land and property. But the leaked document says that was an exclusive agreement between the Crown and Māori.
Now you'll notice she didn't mention akin to a partnership because the word partnership is not in the treaty.
The treaty was a document that was signed throughout the country in 1840 between representatives of the Crown and rangatira.
To misinterpret deliberately and make it to cover everyone is an absolute nonsense.
The ACT Party rejects any suggestion it's got it wrong.
ACT's policy takes the exact wording of the Maori version of the treaty and inserts those as the principles we should live by when it comes to the treaty.
Another issue raised, there's been no consultation with Māori, despite the bill's substantial impact on Māori rights.
Actually, Māori and non-Māori have been consulted, but ACT is opposed to treating people differently based on their race.
The government's already facing multiple legal challenges over its policies. This document hasn't surprised experts critical of their plans.
I think it's a fairly direct attack on Māori. I would say it's by far the most direct attack legally in the last 20 years, if not longer.
Many gathered here at the seat of the Kīngitanga warning of continued pressure if the bill progresses.
Every platform, every forum we will use in order to ensure that our rights under the Treaty of Waitangi are protected. Nothing's off the table. Everything is on the table.
Should the government push ahead anyway, the bill could be introduced to Parliament as early as May.
Now, the key controversy in this whole document is about ACT's new principles. And you probably missed them because they buried them. I'll play them again.
But now, something new's top of the agenda, a bombshell draft document on the government's Treaty Principles Bill.
Did you catch them? Probably not. So I'll play them again. Or should I say, this is what they should have shown. ACT's proposed principles. Article 1. The New Zealand government has the right to govern all New Zealanders. Article 2. The New Zealand government will honour all New Zealanders in their chieftainship of their land and all their property. Article 3. All New Zealanders are equal under the law with the same rights and duties. Now, I don't have any problem with that except for the word chieftainship, which has many meanings. Now, as far as these existing principles go, they are meaningless gobbledygook that emanate from the actual principles. Reasonable cooperation means partnership, which is not in the Articles. Resolution of grievances means redress, which is also not in the Articles. Now to Rodney Hyde and Elizabeth Rata.
This is Real Talk with Rodney Hyde. Tuesdays and Thursdays from 10 a.m.
You're on Reality Check Radio. It's Real Talk with Rodney Hyde. Please remember you can email me inbox@realitycheck.radio. You can text me at 2057. Wow. Those responses have been definitive. Everyone wants to hear from Professor Elizabeth Rata. More and more and more. And Prof. Elizabeth Rata has written just a stunning article explaining so much and cutting through so much nonsense. And it's this idea, Elizabeth, that we're actually dealing with two treaties. Could you explain that to us?
Yes, I think the two treaties are, the first is the Articles Treaty, which is the treaty signed in 1840, has 3 articles, and we know what those articles are. And then from the 1980s, the meaning of that treaty, of those articles, was detached from the thing itself, from the treaty. The words in the treaty and what they meant, there was a detachment. They were separated. So the words and the meaning were separated. And we then had new meaning given, and that new meaning created what I call a second treaty, the Principles Treaty. Now, the Principles Treaty has words partnership, active protection, redress, that do not appear in the 1840 treaty at all. So they have, a new treaty has been constructed and given authority by a very small group of powerful people. And we have been told this is the treaty. No, it's not the treaty. The treaty has 3 articles which say something quite different from this Principles Treaty with a capital P, These principles have been given a capital P. They are made to appear to be the truth, but they're simply an ideology created by a small group of influential, powerful people.
How did it come about that you have a written treaty that was well debated by the chiefs and discussed, and those debates, as we know, were recorded, and they clearly understood the significance of what they were signing? They weren't savages writing, across not understanding it. They understood perfectly, and that treaty was actually a beautiful, wonderful document. How did it come to pass that everything we talk about today, from professors, from teachers, every politician, from the judges, from every government department, is this completely different treaty? How did this different treaty come about? How was that achieved? How do you make a new treaty out of an old treaty?
Yes, gosh, what a question. And there are a number of reasons, and each reason is embedded in a deeper reason. On the surface, it occurred because a group of powerful people, activist judges, law professors, and so on, insisted that this was the truth. But that's different from getting people to believe it. So then you have to get people to believe something that is in your interests. But there was an additional element, and it's the failure of our parliamentary representatives. They went along with it despite not knowing what they were doing. And Simon Upton, who was a member of Parliament in the 1990s, has actually said, when we inserted the principles of the treaty into legislation, we didn't actually know what we were doing. So it's almost as though you have the ideologues, the treatyists, I call them, and I certainly don't call them Māori because they're both Māori and non-Māori. So you have the ideologues who are pushing a particular position because, of course, they will benefit from it. And, fair enough, that's what groups of people do. And then you have our parliamentary representatives, our members of parliament, who should have stopped it. It is their responsibility to represent us, the people. Their authority is the authority that we allow them to have. And for them to do something, starting in 1986 and in every piece of legislation since then, they have inserted the principles of this new principles treaty into every piece of legislation, instead of saying, hang on, stop, what are we doing? What do these principles mean? And what is their relationship to the articles of the treaty? They have not done that. But then, of course, the third group is us, the people. How have we allowed it to happen?
Yes. I might be able to shed some light because you may know the story or you may not. But Richard Prebble told me this story. And I think in 1986, you'll be referring to the usage of the word principles in the State-Owned Enterprises Act.
Yes.
Well, Richard tells me this story, that they were having trouble with Maori leaders getting the state-owned enterprises legislation into law, and that Geoffrey Palmer had gone off to do this negotiation. And I should say, Richard never had a very low opinion of Sir Geoffrey. And he came back and said, I've solved it. All we need to do is add in nothing in this legislation shall, I can't remember the legal phrase, abrogate or contradict or some fancy word, the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi. And you'll be familiar that was used in the 75 Waitangi Tribunal Act, but it was consistent with the Articles Treaty. This was just floating in the air. So this law professor and very senior cabinet minister had negotiated that we would just insert this into the State-Owned Enterprises Act, that nothing would abrogate the principles of the treaty. And Richard says, he asked Sir Geoffrey, he wasn't Sir Geoffrey then, what does that mean? And Sir Geoffrey said, this is the beauty of it. It's meaningless.
Oh, that's yes. And Geoffrey Palmer had actually already consulted with Happy Te Hiuhiu up in Tuwharetoa and been told that the iwi leaders would be happy if this phrase was used. And Geoffrey Palmer thinking, yes, I will take a phrase and I will just allow it, I will consider it meaningless. Well, that is the beginning of an egregious.
Everything flows from that.
Yes, because after that, anyone can put any meaning they want to into this word. These principles that acquired a capital P, that became a thing all of themselves. And from then on, it was up for grabs. Let's say what these things mean.
Yeah, there it is, folks. They are meaningless. The principles are meaningless.
Yes, and Richard said to Sir Geoffrey that he didn't think that words just sit in legislation without meaning. He said if they don't have meaning, they'll be given a meaning. And then, as I understand it, Elizabeth, it was Robin Cook who came along and said, well, if Parliament won't articulate these principles, we will.
Yes. And you see, at that point, Parliament should have said, no, just do not do that. Parliament legislates, Parliament says what legislation means, because it is authority. Once legislation is passed, legislation has meaning, it is authority at that point. It is not for judges to take over democratic authority. And of course, that's what happened.
And the one I think that Simon Upton would have been referring to was the Resource Management Act, because he was the minister that oversaw that coming into law, but it was actually authored by Sir Geoffrey Palmer.
Yeah, that would be, yes, that was the 1991. Yes, that would be right. And, to play around with such an important word and for a lawyer to do it. I mean,
a law professor.
A law professor of all people should know that every word counts and every word placed in a context counts.
Well, either he was played and isn't very bright, or he wasn't played and he is bright. He knew exactly what he was doing and just minimized it.
Either are possible. Apparently he came back from having gone up to meet Happy Te Hiuhiu, came back very pleased with the outcome. So we don't know what his motives were.
Well, nevertheless, the effect has been, as you describe it, a whole new treaty.
Yeah. And the other thing is, especially once the partnership principle became a holier-than-thou thing itself, of sacred, even though, of course, as we know, partnership is not part of the treaty, but it has become so. Once you say that you have two partners and they have the sacred accord between them, all this invented principles treaty, then you have to start to define the two partners in a permanent, ongoing, timeless way.
Yeah, now folks, I'm not sure why David Seymour wrote those new principles, as I think the principles should be scrapped altogether because they've caused so much division in this country. Anyway, folks, I've posted all the relevant links below, along with all the Stop Co governance Truth Tour links as well.